This video is sponsored by Helsinki Metal Festival 2023.
Hello everybody out there, this is Kai.
And Michael.
And we are booked for the Helsinki Metal Fest as headliners on the
11th of August.
11th.
After all the cancellations and stuff, we're happy to finally come to your country.
Yeah. Come
See you
watch
there
us.
then.
Yeah.
Welcome to Rauta and an ageless topic. It's all about age and disappointment. Disappointment in general. Now, that is something that a lot of people in common, despite culture, despite wherever you're from and all that stuff, can pretty much relate. The older you get, the more apparent it becomes that you are thinking about age, getting older and aging in general and how the things have been affecting you. Now, obviously, this topic here, because we're here in Rauta, not just, medical channel, the thing here is metal related. And this is something kind of a topic which doesn't have any visuals, so in case you just kind of want to face out, do it by all means. I don't have any fancy graphics here that I save for other more pro YouTubers. But the topic here is about aging and how does it affect us when we get older. How do we react to different music, different festivals, events in general and all that stuff. Now, I guess this is something that a lot of people especially if you're a little bit older. If you're not in your 20s anymore, you probably know already what I'm going to talk about. How do you react? How do your reactions change over the years? I mean, things are not as surprising anymore when you're getting older and more experienced. Now, what I've seen is that a lot of younger people seem very frustrated when you say these rather obvious things like, when you have more experience, when you age a little bit more. It's frustrating, and I get it why. They don't have the possibility to say that. They are kind of bound to believe whatever this old-time boomer has to say. And that often becomes kind of a nasty conversation because it's more about boomers, about zoomers. Not literally necessarily, but the point here remains the same. Young people don't want to hear what the old people want to say because they don't have any kind of a position in defense to defend against those arguments. So obviously it's more about they either choose to believe and say, whatever you say, Grandpa, or they will challenge it. But the thing here is they really can't challenge it with the experience because they have none. Now, obviously I'm talking about only on my own experience, but I think this is more general that we'd like to admit. That is saying that when you are more experienced, not so much related to age, but obviously age and experience go somewhat hand in hand, affects how we really go about different kind of things. I've seen a lot of older people, and by older I mean just anybody who's older than a teenager here, react differently when it's all about going to festivals. Some people say, yeah, I don't have the time because I have to take care kids and family, whatever you have. Some people say, oh, I'm way too much in the comfort zone. I'm not going to go into festivals because you have to live in a tent or whatever. I'd rather just, lay on my couch and watch some streaming services and what have you. So obviously these kind of things come with age. People are more about their comfort zone and all that stuff. But that's not the whole truth, obviously. A lot of those things have to do, in general, is what have you experienced before? Now, I had this conversation with a friend of mine who is actually the same year, roughly just like month difference in age and all that stuff, a review colleague of mine. He might be even watching this. And when I was talking to him about, midsummer plans, he was like, yeah, I've already gotten my share of those midsummer festivals and cabin trips. No way I'm going to touch those subjects. And then I was thinking like the last time I was actually having a midsummer festival experience was over 10 years ago. Now, obviously, a lot of things have changed in my personal life, which also affects that. But even before those changes, I was like, okay, I'm going to leave my tent here. I'm not going to bring it with me, and I'm not coming back. And the reason was this. I was already kind of, fed up with the whole bring your own tent and sleeping bag and, just go through the cold nights, even though summer is supposed to be warm and all that stuff. But that's daytime thing. When it gets down to midnight and beyond, it's going to get colder and then you're in your sleeping bag having the kind of existential crisis like, what the hell I'm doing here? Why I'm supposed to pretend this is fun when it's not? Now, obviously, you can choose other ways. I don't know, rent a cabin or go with the, those traveling cars or whatever. But first of all, certain things are out of your reach when you're a little bit late. Cabins are already taken, and having those cars either taken, too expensive, or what have you. So the rest of the question is, are you ready to do a little bit tent, or are you just like not ready for camping and you're gonna do something else? But even that is not the whole truth, like about comfort zones and all that stuff. I mean, of course, you could just booze around yourself. Like, okay, it's gonna be cold. I have a bottle of vodka here, and I'm just gonna deal with it. But no, it's all about the possibility of seeing some new interesting bands for the first time. But if you're not interested in those new bands and the rest of the bands are all which you have already seen many times, you start really thinking about, is it really worth it? Is it really, worth the money and time and going through those cold nights and all that stuff? And you're like, nah, screw it, I'm gonna do something else. That also applies to a lot of listening to the new albums. I mean, once you have kind of gone through decades of music genres, they are not going to do the first time experience like, wow, is it this, the death metal? What are you calling death metal? Real? What is this stuff? So when I'm, for example, listening to some album which sounds like it could have been coming out in, say, 1992 for Sweden, Sunlight Studios and all, I'm like, okay, this is probably the thousandth HM2, Boss HM2 sounding death metal album with the kind of a basic same idea, Dismembered, Grave, Entombed, etc. were doing already 3 decades ago. Why should I be like wow about it? And then I kind of get it. If I was now, say, 18 years old, and this would be my first or second time hearing the given style, it might be actually, eyebrow-rising moment. Like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is, like, this music is all about? Of course, the same thing applies to other genres. Having heard black metal in the early to mid 90s for the first time, like, wow, what is this shit? Battery, Dark Throne, Dissection, whatever you have. Nowadays, you're more like, okay, this is a worship band, this is band is Mayhem Worship, this is Marduk Pastiche, oh, this is some Talkie Wannabe, etc. You go with the bands which have been doing the same kind of stuff for eternities, and you really don't have the virgin experience to have that stuff, for a millionth time. Now, obviously, there are things which always make you happy. I guess for a lot of people, sex is exactly that. It always feels fantastic. Even if it's your, a jillionth time of doing that, it's still great. Same things for good food, especially when you're hungry. But let's be honest about it. When it comes to art or entertainment in general, you have to be more than just like good stuff to make those waves, to make that impact. And I'm also seeing the pattern happening with my reviews. Like, it's really hard to be super excited when you hear the same album for, after 500 times or so. So whatever happened some 30 years ago and everything was new and fantastic and wow, be it a big band already or not, doesn't really matter. Whenever you had the first time experience, or even second or third time, it's already like great. When you saw those bands for the first time on stage, when you hear them first time on your CD player, vinyl, whatever, wow. But after a while, it becomes kind of not necessarily boring, but kind of a repetitive. And the thing here is, it doesn't matter how good a band is on stage. I nowadays see myself and other people as well skipping the bands. So you go to a festival and you're like, hey, there are these great bands. I'm going to see them on stage. And then what essentially happens is you're just having beers with your friends, good talks and all that stuff. And people are like, but it's Destroyer 666 playing there. Why are you not seeing them? Oh, look, I saw them last year. I saw them 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. And then you're like, okay, I'm just going to skip them. I'm going to see the next time. However, not necessarily the next time comes. And there comes the paradox. You're also like, but this conversation with my pal here, maybe a new one, it's happening for the first time. And this could be the one-time opportunity. Seeing that band, that might be also a one-time opportunity, but you have to choose. All I'm saying is that with age and experience, you certainly got used to certain things. But you also learn not to take things for granted. Like first time, maybe sometimes you see the certain person for the last time ever. That happened to my friend of mine a few years ago. He died. No, there's that. So if your handshake was like, we'll talk later, might not happen again. No, I'm not going to go into melancholy and all that shit. I'm just saying that certain things need to be in your balance check. I mean, you have to figure out what is really important to you. And if that band is not making big waves for you, even though you liked it back in the days, I mean, there's no shame for skipping that. That's just something that kind of happens. But of course, I start questioning myself, like, if there's an important band on stage, why am I not seeing them? Sometimes I go for a few songs, and that's all I need. I can say, yeah, I saw 4 songs. They were pretty good, but nothing out of ordinary. Do I feel regrets later on I didn't watch the whole show and all that stuff? Or if I missed a show because I was doing an interview, or even just talking to my friends? Not really. I mean, that's just something that you kind of get used to. Seeing bands for the first time is important. I mean, you kind of get to feel that first time only once, obviously. So when you have the chance, you're going to do it. But if the band is disappointment, and this has happened to plenty of times for me, you really don't feel the shame if you don't ever watch them again. I mean, why would you? I mean, if it was disappointment for the first time, why would it be different for the second time? Even if the band is good on stage, I mean on albums, it doesn't mean it's good on stage, or vice versa. Some bands could be really crappy on, whenever you play them an album and like, pure mediocrity, I don't want to touch them. And on live they're like, wow, this is actually good, this is entertaining. But like I said, first things happen only once. And after that it's all just like, I don't know, very different game. And once you have lost that virginity feeling, it's going to be different, and you start pondering things from very different angles. All I guess I'm saying is that age really affects us, maybe more than we're willing to admit. I wouldn't have said these things maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know. Definitely not some 25 years ago when I was younger and I couldn't even imagine how it is to not feel these first time moments anymore. I mean, the older you get, the less you get to, experience things for the first time. And of course, it's gonna be affecting how you feel about it. So I guess I'm saying this kind of makes a little bit cynical about a lot of things. And it's rather better to just accept the facts than just like deny it. And of course, this is something that you shouldn't be stealing from the younger audience, the next generation. They will have it the first time. And if they don't understand what your boomer experience or mentality is, explaining them, no love lost really. I mean, they get to feel later on. I mean, if they get to live that long. And if they die young, well, too bad. But maybe it could be for the better. Okay, cynical jokes aside, all I'm saying is that don't even pretend to be that age you're not. So if you're in your 20s and you don't understand what this boomer is saying at all, it's fine. You will eventually understand. Maybe. Hopefully. Likely. And if you're older, don't even try to put yourself into the boots of that young fella right there. Because you probably don't remember what it was to live 30 years ago. How it actually was to feel certain things for the first time. Be it the first kiss, first time to see certain bands on stage, hearing death metal or black metal for the first time. I don't know, getting drunk or hung over for the first time. Some of those memories you won't be missing at all, and some things you probably long for, like your first girlfriend when you were really heart in flames and eventually heartbroken. Certain things you won't miss, certain things you will, but it's nonetheless in the past. So don't worry about it. I guess just experience what you can and try to make best of it. Let's end up in positivity. And now off you go listen to something more important than old man rambling here about first times and whatnot. So off you go, listen to some good shit and go to see those bands on stage while you still have the possibility, money and will. That's all. Take care. Bye bye.